Ladies and gentlemen, imagine for a moment that everything you've ever wanted is already inside you, waiting to be unlocked. What if the only thing standing between you and the life you dream of is a set of small yet powerful decisions? What if I told you that your hidden potential is closer than you think, and that with a few simple shifts, you could tap into it and start living at a whole new level? This isn't about wishing or hoping for change. It's about activating the power that's already within you. Today, I'm going to show you how to do exactly that. Because the truth is, you don't need to search for your potential. You just need to make the decision to unlock it. If you're ready to stop holding back and step into the next level of your life, then stay with me, because what we're about to dive into will change everything. There's something inside you right now that's greater than your current circumstances, bigger than your schedule, habits, fears, or even the people around you. You've felt it before. Those quiet moments, the flashes of insight, and the stretches of dissatisfaction where you question if the life you're living is the one you were meant to have. That pull, that sense that there's more, isn't just a fantasy or a delusion. It's your potential speaking to you. It doesn't shout for attention. It doesn't demand anything. Instead, it whispers, nudges, and taps you on the shoulder, reminding you, wake up, I'm still here. The reality is that most people never unlock this potential, not because it isn't there, but because they don't take the time to notice it. They're too busy, too distracted, too conditioned by the noise of the world to hear that quiet signal within. They follow routines they didn't create. They obey limits they've never tested. They seek validation from people who have already settled for mediocrity. But that's not you, not anymore. You wouldn't be here if you hadn't already decided somewhere deep inside that you're not going to spend your life wondering what you could have become. You're ready to find out. You're ready to push through the excuses, the hesitation, and the overthinking. You're ready to go beyond the surface. Potential isn't just about talent. It's not about being born with a gift. It's about capacity. It's about possibility. It's the gap between where you are now and where you could be if you stopped holding yourself back. It's the untapped strength, the hidden ideas, the locked up energy. The only way to discover it is to go after it. Now, not someday. Life doesn't wait for anyone. The clock keeps ticking whether you act or not. And if you don't take control of your life, someone else will. Someone else will decide your worth. Someone else will define who you are. Write your story. And one day, you'll wake up wondering how everything slipped away. But here's the good news. You're still holding the pen. You still have the power to decide what this next chapter will look like. It doesn't begin with a miracle. It begins with a decision. The decision to stop coasting, the decision to stop hiding. What you need isn't a new identity, it's a new standard. You don't need luck, you need action. What you need is daily commitment. You don't need someone to come and save you. What you need is to remember who you truly are, beneath all the distractions and doubts, because deep down you already know what you're capable of. You've caught glimpses of it. You've experienced it in moments of clarity, in times when everything just clicked, and now it's time to make that state your new normal. It's time to turn potential into action, to take it from an idea and make it a commitment, to move from wishing to working and to truly unlock it. This isn't magic. It's not some hidden mystery. It's a process, a repeatable one, a path you can walk one step at a time with clarity, with intention, with discipline. 7 steps, 7 decisions, 7 layers to peel back, each one revealing the potential that's always been inside you. The first step to unlocking that hidden potential is awareness. Not passive awareness, but a deep, active, honest understanding of where you are and who you've been. Because you can't change what you refuse to confront. You can't rise above what you refuse to see. And if you stay unaware, you stay stuck. Most people aren't stuck because of their circumstances. They're stuck because they've stopped looking at themselves clearly. They've created a version of themselves that's easier to accept, but it's not the truth. It's a version built on past experiences, other people's opinions, and outdated patterns that no longer serve them. You can't build a powerful life on a foundation that's blurry. You need clarity. Clarity about your habits, your beliefs, your identity, and the actions you're taking. Are they pushing you forward or holding you back? Potential doesn't exist in fantasy. It exists in truth. And truth begins with a mirror. Not the mirror that flatters, but the mirror that reflects. Shows you exactly what's there. Not to shame you, not to make you feel like you're falling behind, but to wake you up, to give you the data you need to understand what's truly running your life. How do you spend your time? Not what you say, but what you actually do. Where does your attention go when no one's managing you? What patterns emerge when you're stressed? What stories do you tell yourself when you fail? What do you reach for when things go quiet? That's awareness. And most people don't want to face it. They'd rather escape into distractions, entertainment, or busyness because stillness is confronting. But the truth is, stillness is your starting point. If you can't sit with who you are, you can't change it. You need to understand your defaults, the way you speak to yourself when you fall short, the beliefs you default to when things go wrong, the identity you revert to when no one's watching. Because until you recognize it, you can't interrupt it. You can't replace what you haven't named. Awareness is painful at first because it forces you to face the gap between your intentions and your behavior. It shows you where you've been lying to yourself. It reveals the areas of your life you've let drift. But that pain isn't punishment. It's an invitation. It's the access you need. Once you see it, you can change it. Once you name the pattern, you can rewrite it. Once you become aware of your triggers, your reactions, and your default emotions, you can begin to shift, not by forcing yourself harder, but by living with intention. And when you live consciously, everything starts to change. You stop running on autopilot. You stop repeating the patterns of yesterday. You stop blaming luck, timing, or other people, because you realize that everything begins with you, not in a way that brings guilt, but in a way that gives you real power. If you've been drifting, the first step isn't to move faster, it's to wake up. It's to become deeply aware of what you've been avoiding, of what you've accepted as normal even though it no longer serves you, of what's embedded in your routine that keeps you small. If you want to unlock your potential, start by noticing where you're leaking it, where your words don't match your actions, where your standards fall short in your daily choices, where your excuses have quietly shaped your identity. It's uncomfortable, but it's necessary. You don't need to fix everything overnight. You just need to see it clearly. Stop sugarcoating it, stop spinning it. Sit with it, write it down, name the patterns, ask yourself, is this who I want to be 5 years from now? And if the answer is no, congratulations, you've just found your starting line. Awareness gives you choice. Once you're aware, you can decide, keep it or change it, repeat it or rewrite it, numb it or face it, run from it or rise through it. But until you become aware, you don't really get to choose. You're just reacting, you're repeating, you're reliving your past and calling it your personality. But that's not who you are. That's simply what you've learned to become. And here's the good news. You can unlearn it. You can rewire it. You can reshape it, but only after you've seen it, because you cannot change what you refuse to admit. So be honest, brutally honest, not cruel, but clear. And once you see the truth, be kind to yourself, not through indulgence, but through responsibility. You saw the truth. Now, do something about it. Start shifting. Start asking better questions. Start choosing better inputs. Step away from what numbs you and lean toward what sharpens you. The second step to unlocking your hidden potential is to challenge your beliefs, because beliefs are not facts. Beliefs are conclusions, and most of the ones holding you back weren't even created by you. They were inherited, absorbed, and repeated, and without questioning them, you let them become the blueprint for your life. From a young age, you were being shaped, not maliciously, but consistently. You observed how the people around you handled failure, how they talked about money, how they acted under stress, what they said about what was possible, about people like you, about what someone from your background, education, or circumstances could. And because you were young and your mind was open, you absorbed those messages. You accepted them as reality, as structure, as limitation. Over time, those beliefs hardened into rules, invisible rules, that now quietly shape how far you reach, how hard you try, and how big you allow yourself to dream. The problem is most people never go back to question those rules. They build their lives inside invisible cages. And even when the door is wide open, they don't step out because the belief tells them they don't belong out there. The belief says, you're not ready. It says, this is as good as it gets. But you don't break out of that mindset through willpower alone. You break out by questioning the belief itself. You ask, where did I learn this? Who told me this was true? Have I ever tested this? Is this a truth or just a tradition I've never challenged? And once you start asking these questions, everything starts to open up. You begin to realize that most of your limits were optional. Most of your doubts were inherited. Most of the ceilings you've been living under were never real to begin with. And the moment you stop believing in them, they stopped having power over you. Because a belief is nothing more than a practiced thought. You've thought it long enough, repeated it often enough, and experienced it consistently enough that it became a lens through which you now see the world. But here's the key. You can change that lens. You can update the mental operating system. You can start feeding yourself new messages, not blindly, not through empty positivity, but with intention, with choice, with discipline, and with evidence. You start by identifying the limiting belief. Then you challenge it. You test it. You build a case against it. You gather proof of the moments when it wasn't true. You stop reinforcing it through repetition, and instead, you begin to install a new belief. And here's where many people stumble. They uncover the old belief, but fail to replace it. And when you don't replace it, the old one eventually grows back. It sneaks back into your mind during moments of stress, doubt, or exhaustion. So you don't just remove a belief, you rewire it. You build a new belief the same way you built the old one. Through repetition, through emotion, through reinforcement. You speak it, you act on it, you collect evidence that supports it. And over time, it becomes your new lens, your new baseline, your new truth. With this new belief in place, you begin to move differently. You stop hesitating, you stop playing small, you stop second guessing your instincts because now your mind isn't fighting you, it's supporting the new identity you're building. That's how you rise. You don't wait for the world to change how it sees you, you change how you see yourself. And that internal shift unlocks the next level because now the lid is off. You're no longer seeking permission, you're moving with clarity. But here's the reality. That clarity has to be earned. You earn it by showing up every day and behaving like the person you're becoming, not the person you've been, even when it feels unfamiliar, especially when it feels unfamiliar, because every time you act in alignment with the new belief, the old one weakens. And yes, it will feel uncomfortable. There will be resistance. Your mind will want to retreat to what's familiar because familiar feels safe. But familiar and fulfilling are not the same. If you want to grow, you must be willing to leave the familiar behind. So you take the risk, you step forward, you speak differently, you show up differently, you move differently, not because it's easy, but because it's aligned, because you've chosen to believe something new, and that belief is opening doors the old one never could. The third step to unlocking your hidden potential is to build identity through action, because you don't become who you want to be by just thinking about it. You become it by acting like it consistently, repeatedly, intentionally, until those actions become your new normal, and that new normal becomes you. This is the bridge most people never cross. They discover the idea, they get excited, they create the vision board, but they never shift their behavior. They wait for their identity to change first, thinking then they'll take action. But it doesn't work that way. You don't act because you believe, you start believing because you act. You don't wait for confidence and then move, you move and earn confidence. You don't wait to feel ready, you move and become ready. Every action you take casts the vote for who you're becoming. Every time you show up, every time you follow through, every time you choose discipline over comfort, you are placing a vote for the identity you are building. The more votes you cast, the more you begin to believe, this is who I am now. It's not about faking it or pretending. It's about proving it to yourself. You don't need external validation. You need internal evidence. And the fastest way to gather that evidence is to act like the future version of yourself right now. Ask yourself, If I already were the person I want to be, how would I behave today? How would I carry myself? What decisions would I make? What would I stop tolerating? Then you start doing those things, not once, not twice, but consistently until they become natural. Identity isn't something you discover, it's something you build. You create it through behavior, through consistency, through the repeated choice to take the harder, longer, more aligned road, because that's what your future self would do. Yes, it will feel awkward at first. Your old habits will resist. Your environment may not support it. Your friends might not even recognize you anymore. But that's the cost of transformation. You don't get to upgrade without letting go of what's outdated. People often say change is hard, but what's harder is staying stuck in an old identity that no longer fits. What's harder is waking up each day pretending your dreams don't matter. What's harder is living misaligned year after year. So instead of waiting to feel like it, you act into it. You act like the confident one. You act like the focused one. You act like the disciplined one. You act like the leader, the writer, the athlete, the artist, the builder. Whatever your future demands, you start moving like it today. You don't have to do it perfectly. You just have to be consistent. You just have to do it often enough that the new behavior starts to feel familiar, that it becomes your default, that it eventually feels weirder not to do it than to do it. That's how transformation works. It's not a sudden flip. It's a gradual shift, one built through behavior, through habit, through repetition. And every day you follow through, even if it's messy, you are becoming. You're no longer waiting on motivation. You're no longer hoping someone else will remind you of your goals. You've taken full ownership of who you want to become, and your calendar, your conversations, your environment, all reflect it. That level of alignment is rare, but it's real. And it's available to anyone willing to stop saying someday and start asking, what now? Anyone willing to stop admiring potential and start acting it out. You don't have to announce your new identity. You don't have to post about it. You just have to live it. You build evidence quietly, consistently, and let your habits do the talking. Let your presence carry the message. The fourth step to unlocking the hidden potential within you is to embrace challenge as your training ground, not as punishment, but as preparation. Nothing will expose your potential faster than pressure, and nothing will refine it faster than struggle. Everyone wants growth, but no one wants discomfort. Everyone wants breakthrough, but no one wants resistance. But here's the truth. Your potential doesn't emerge in ease. It's pulled out of you when you're forced to reach for more than what's familiar. Comfort keeps you consistent with who you've been. Challenge pulls you into who you could be. It stretches you, it shakes you, it tests the systems you've built and the beliefs you've clung to, and every time you choose to lean in instead of run, you evolve. You want to find out what you're made of? Step into difficulty. Do the thing that scares you. Commit to something bigger than your current ability. Say yes to the kind of pressure that forces you to grow, not because you're ready, but because you're willing. The more you avoid challenge, the more you avoid growth. The more you run from discomfort, the longer you delay your breakthrough, because what you call pressure, life calls preparation. And it's not there to break you, it's there to shape you. Every challenge is an invitation to think clearer, to move with intention, to find your edge, to let go of what no longer fits, to see what happens when the old identity starts to crumble and something stronger begins to emerge. And the strongest people you know, the ones who walk with confidence, who carry weight with ease, who seem to move through storms with clarity, they weren't born like that. They were built through repetition, through challenge, through doing what most people avoid. You don't need to go searching for hardship, but you do need to stop hiding from it. You need to stop labeling every difficulty as a sign to retreat. What if it's not a sign to back off? What if it's a signal that you're exactly where you need to be? Growth never feels like growth when you're in the middle of it. It feels like tension, like friction, like frustration. But the longer you sit in it, the more you let the discomfort do its job, the more you start to rise. You build capacity, you become more resilient, you think sharper. You start to see that pain is not the enemy, it's the tool. It reveals what needs to be fixed, what needs to be strengthened, what you've been avoiding. And that insight, it's priceless. You don't grow in theory, you grow in practice. In the real life tests no one prepared you for, in the moments that interrupt your comfort, in the situations that feel unfair, unpredictable, overwhelming, those are the moments where you find your edge. But most people don't stay long enough to get the lesson. They want out too soon. They want relief before results. They want the fire to stop before it finishes refining them. So they miss the transformation. They miss the identity upgrade. But you're here to stay. You're here to breathe through the challenge, to extract the lesson, to let it make you deeper, not bitter, stronger, not colder, sharper, not harder. This challenge isn't here to destroy you. It's here to unlock you. And the longer you sit with that truth, the more unstoppable you become, because you no longer fear pressure. You trust it. You no longer panic when things get hard. You get focused. You stop asking for the challenge to go away, and you start asking, who do I need to become to rise through this? That mindset is rare, it's resilient, it's transformational, because now nothing is wasted. Every struggle becomes data. Every delay becomes development. Every setback becomes a signal to tighten your habits, adjust your posture, and move again. You don't have to love the pain, but you do have to respect the process. You have to keep showing up when it's not glamorous, when no one's cheering, when the results are still distant. You stay, you keep breathing, you keep working, and you trust that the challenge is making you stronger than you were before it arrived. The fifth step to unlocking the hidden potential within you is to align your environment with your future, because no matter how strong your mindset is, your environment is speaking to you all day long. It's shaping you, nudging you, influencing your habits, and training your nervous system to either stay the same or stretch forward. Most people underestimate this. They think they can will their way into growth while surrounding themselves with comfort, distraction, and old energy. But you can't plant a new identity in the same soil that kept the old one alive. You need a different atmosphere. If your goal is transformation, then your environment has to match. You have to curate your inputs, who you're around, what you listen to, what conversations you allow, what energy you tolerate. Because every one of those things is either watering your potential or draining it. You cannot grow into your future while staying emotionally attached to what's keeping you average. You can't keep holding on to every relationship just because of history. You can't keep tolerating a schedule that doesn't respect your vision. You can't keep exposing yourself to low standards and expect to live at a high one. This is where alignment becomes non-negotiable. You stop designing your life around comfort. You stop protecting your old habits. You start asking a better question. Does this support who I'm becoming? And if it doesn't, you adjust, you let go, you upgrade. And that upgrade, it's hard because it means you'll have to make decisions that don't always feel easy. But if you want to unlock potential, you have to create an environment that expects it from you, that reflects it back to you, that supports it when your own belief is shaky. You build that environment by being intentional about your time, about your space, about your standards. You don't wait until you feel different. You change the world around you to remind yourself of who you're becoming. You clean the clutter. You simplify your inputs. You audit your social circle. You pay attention to what makes you sharp and what makes you small. You stop justifying mediocrity and start elevating everything that touches your daily rhythm. Your environment trains your nervous system. If it's chaotic, you stay reactive. If it's disciplined, you build peace. If it's distracted, your potential gets fragmented. But if it's aligned, clean, focused, designed, you start operating at a different level. And alignment isn't accidental. It's built through boundaries, through decisions, through choosing what you will and will not allow into your physical, mental, and emotional space. You don't become your highest self by chance, you become it by choice. So you create an atmosphere that supports that choice. You get around people who challenge you, not just compliment you. You spend time with those who remind you of your potential, not your past. You pour energy into relationships that hold you accountable to your standards, not ones that keep you comfortable in your excuses. You change your schedule, you carve space for what matters. You stop saying yes to things just because you don't want to disappoint others. You prioritize your future over their temporary opinion. Because when your environment aligns with your vision, your effort becomes exponential. You're no longer fighting upstream, you're being supported by everything around you. And that's when you gain momentum. You don't have to think as hard about showing up. You don't have to remind yourself every morning why you're committed. You just live inside a structure that supports it. And the consistency you've been craving, it starts to feel natural. In the quiet moments, in the middle of the storm, in the heat of the decision, that's when your voice matters most. Most people carry an inner critic that's louder than their inner coach. They don't even realize it's there. It's just been on repeat for years. You're not ready. You always mess this up. Why even try? These aren't facts. They're echoes, old programming, recycled doubt, disguised as truth. And that voice, it's not harmless. It becomes identity. It shapes posture. It dictates risk tolerance. It limits your capacity long before life ever tests it. Because if you're already losing the internal battle, you'll avoid the external one. But you can change that. You can train your internal voice to support your future, not sabotage it. You don't silence the critic. You override it. You stop arguing with the negative thoughts, and you start rehearsing the right ones. You speak from your values, not your feelings, from your intention, not your insecurity, from your identity, not your history. You start telling yourself what your future requires, not what your past expects. And it's not fake. It's not delusional. It's deliberate. It's disciplined. It's built one repetition at a time. You notice the voice. You pause. You reframe. You say, that's not who I am anymore. And you speak something better. I am in process. I'm growing. I'm showing up. I can do this. You replace judgment with instruction. Instead of I'm failing, you say, what's the lesson? Instead of this always happens, you ask, what can I shift? You stop assigning identity to your mistakes and start assigning purpose to them. That shift in language compounds. It builds belief, not overnight, but over time. And as that belief grows, your behavior shifts, your posture rises, your risk expands, your consistency deepens. Because now you're not working against your own mind, you're working with it. You coach yourself through hard moments. You stay centered in chaos. You choose language that reinforces commitment, not comfort. You speak to yourself like someone you respect, like someone worth showing up for, because you are. And every time you repeat that pattern, you reinforce the identity. I'm disciplined. I follow through. I do the hard thing. I'm calm under pressure. These aren't just statements. They're anchors. They hold you steady when everything else starts to shake. And they don't just shape your mood, they shape your life. Because your inner dialogue becomes your outer behavior becomes your habits shape your results, and your results reinforce your belief. It's a cycle. And you're either running it with intention or letting it run you by default. But either way, it's happening. So take control, become intentional. Choose your words carefully because you're always listening. You can't talk yourself into mediocrity every day and expect to live an extraordinary life. You can't talk yourself down and expect to lead powerfully. You can't carry self-doubt on repeat and expect to take bold action. You have to shift the story. So from now on, you build the habit, you audit the thoughts, you correct the language, you challenge the narrative. You speak to yourself like someone who matters, like someone whose life is worth building, like someone who has more potential than they've been accessing and who is finally ready to unlock it. The seventh step to unlocking the hidden potential within you is to move with urgency, not panic, not rush, but urgency. The kind of urgency that comes from understanding that time is not promised. The kind that comes from knowing potential without action is just wasted opportunity. There is a version of you that exists on the other side of now. Not someday, not after you feel ready, but right now. But you won't meet that version by waiting. You won't meet it by hoping. You meet it by moving. Most people miss their moment, not because they lack talent, but because they were too casual with their timing. They assumed they'd get another shot. They told themselves they had time. They let the calendar lie to them. And while they were waiting, someone else was building. Urgency isn't stress, it's clarity. It's a deep understanding that your life matters, that your potential matters, that the window doesn't stay open forever. While you're putting things off, the gap is growing, and the longer you wait, the harder it becomes to close that gap. You don't get to decide how long your opportunity will last, but you do get to decide how fast you respond to it. And every day you hesitate, you teach your brain that delay is okay, that waiting is safe, that comfort is more valuable than growth. But when you move with urgency, everything shifts. Your focus sharpens, your excuses start to sound weaker, your vision gets louder, because now you're not just thinking about your future, you're building it. And you don't wait for motivation. You don't wait for energy, you move first. You train your system to act when it doesn't feel convenient. You stop letting your feelings decide your pace. You stop confusing, I'm not ready with it's not time. Because the truth is you're not always going to feel ready. But the only way to become ready is to go anyway, to step anyway, to start anyway. And when you do, you create momentum. And momentum gives you evidence. And that evidence builds belief. You want to believe in yourself? Start moving. Stop planning endlessly. Stop waiting to be perfect. Perfection is just procrastination with better PR. Start with what you have, where you are now. Because what you can't afford is another month of hesitation, another quarter of waiting, another year of looking back and realizing you could have been further. You don't need another talk. You need traction. And traction requires movement. This isn't about recklessness. It's about responsibility, about realizing that your life is your responsibility, that your future is your responsibility, that if you want to change, no one's coming to knock on your door and drag you into it. You go, you lead, you move, and you move without apology, without needing everyone to understand, without needing the conditions to be ideal, because urgency isn't about being dramatic. It's about being committed to your vision, to your discipline, to your next level. And when you live that way, when urgency becomes part of your rhythm, you stop letting small things slow you down. You stop letting opinions take you off track. You stop letting fear choose your speed. You lead, you step, you execute, because potential without urgency is just a shelf full of unopened gifts. And life doesn't owe you the time to unwrap them slowly. So you make the decision, you pick up the pace, not chaotically, but intentionally, not frantically, but with purpose. The future doesn't wait, and the longer you delay, the more you have to rebuild. But the sooner you move, the more ground you cover, the more clarity you gain, the more of your own capacity you discover. You've just walked through 7 steps, not quick tips, not motivational fluff, but real actionable principles to unlock what's already inside you. Because here's the truth. It's already there. You don't need to find yourself. You need to return to yourself. You don't need to be rescued. You need to be reminded. You've been told to wait, to play small, to stay realistic. But the reality is this: your potential is not intimidated by your past. It's not limited by your present. It's only waiting on your permission to come alive. And now you've got the keys. You've got the awareness to see what's real. You've got the clarity to challenge old beliefs. You've got the tools to build identity through action. You've got the mindset to embrace challenge as your training ground. You've got the power to align your environment. You've got the language to speak life over your future. And you've got the urgency to move now. So what's next? It's not more theory. It's not waiting for another breakthrough. It's doing the work, taking the step, making the shift, building the habit, repeating the pattern, showing up over and over. Because potential without execution is regret waiting to happen. And if you've felt that before, if you've lived with the quiet tension of knowing you're meant for more, but not moving on it, you don't need to stay there. You get to write something new. This isn't about becoming someone else. It's about becoming who you've always been. Underneath the fear, the distractions, the self-doubt, it's about stripping off what's fake and stepping into what's real. You don't need to impress anyone. You don't even have it all figured out. You just need to start. Start building, start believing, start backing yourself, not loudly, but consistently, not once, but daily. And when it gets hard, because it will, you come back to this. You remember why you started. You remember who you're becoming. You remind yourself that discomfort is not the enemy, it's the path. You don't quit, you breathe. You step, you lead, because the world doesn't benefit from you playing small. It doesn't grow from your hesitation. It doesn't rise from your silence. It shifts when you show up fully, authentically, without apology. So this is your permission slip, or maybe it's your reminder that you've always been more than you've allowed, that it's not too late, that now is still right on time, and that if you commit to the process, the results will follow. You've got the map, you've got the fire, you've got the capacity. The only thing left is the decision to move, to step, to rise. So here's the question. Are you ready to stop living on autopilot and start living with purpose? Are you ready to unlock the hidden potential within you that's been waiting for the right moment to come alive? The steps we've covered today aren't just theory. They're real, actionable strategies that anyone can start implementing right now. The power to change your life, to reach your highest potential, is in your hands. It's time to stop waiting for the perfect moment and start moving toward the life you deserve. If you're serious about becoming the best version of yourself, this is your invitation to take action.